I am so excited for this. Just recently, I went back and went through every story, every available DLC, everything for Frostpunk, and had an absolute blast with you guys. That was so fun. And Frostpunk 2 is imminent. It's coming out in July, which is sort of ironic. But we have a beta, and the Utopia builder is part of this beta. Now, this is just a small slice of what's going to be in the game, right? This is not any of the story mode stuff. This is just kind of the endless builder. You're capped at 300 weeks in the beta, but I'm excited to get in there and see all the new systems. So you've got a choice of ambitions. The only one that we have access to is the starting one. So there's prosperity, there's population, utopia, and colonization. That's what we're going to do. We can only choose one of the maps, Windswept Peaks, but you also have Broken Shore, Fractured Gorge, and Horizon. And then within Windswept Peaks, you've got some communities. You've got machinists and foragers, workers and merchants, lords and thinkers, or random communities. Now, these communities are very cool because they will start to dictate what options come up for choices within your city. And as with Frostpunk, as with a lot of 11-bit Studios games, the choices are difficult. And then these communities can kind of morph into like more extreme versions of them. So that's pretty cool as well. Difficulty will keep on medium, and we'll keep the onboarding on. Let's begin. I've only really come in to test the settings and stuff. And the game is gorgeous. But in terms of gameplay, we're just gonna experience it together. That's cool. Okay, let's begin. A new beginning. The end of the world changes people. It changed us. Us, the foragers. Natural survivalists adapted to harsh frostland conditions. We have the machinists, descendants of groups that built the initial cities. So that's from Frostpunk 1, which takes place, I believe, 30 years prior to this one. And you can imagine that these machinists are descendants of the engineering groups from the first game. We chose you as our steward, big mistake, to lead the city as overpopulation looms and resources dwindle. We all dream of a better future. What it should look like, this we can't agree on. Now tension stirs and radicals rear their heads. Navigating this will be your ultimate challenge. The preview of Utopia builders capped at 300 weeks. The city must not fall. So there are obviously survival elements here, and it's still a survival game. You have resources you need to manage. You have disease, sickness, death, all of that stuff that you need to manage. But it seems like from all the previews that I've read, a lot of the heavy gameplay decisions that have long-lasting impacts are when you start to get into this council session where the different groups have certain power. And you can essentially become a victim of your own choices. So if I start siding with like the machinist guys constantly, they might get enough power where they are actually making the decisions long term. So the ramifications are pretty cool, and the scale is much larger. We're building districts instead of cities or individual buildings. We're building we're operating on a longer timeline. We're talking months and years instead of days, right? So it's pretty cool difference. First of all, coal is running out. We've grown numerous over the years and waited too long to strike out. Our coal piles are nearly depleted. We have to colonize the Frostland. But first, we located some coal deposits in rough terrain around the city. We must send frost-breaking crews to access them. So this is all going to be very, very new. So I need to access a coal deposit. I'm just going to pause here. Access a coal deposit using frost breakers. Construct an extraction district on the coal deposit. So over here we have some frozen forest. I like how much more subtle these little things are than in the first one. So you really got to search. Here's a shallow coal deposit over there. Shallow coal deposit there. Frozen forest or old way stations here. Battered down during the whiteout years. Build logistics district here to access the Frostland. All right, well, we've got fertile ground here, so that looks like we can get food from it. This appears to be our closest coal deposit. So let's go in here and we can look at frost breaking. And I'm going to open up all these tutorials so that we're all on the same page here. Initially, you can only build districts in a limited area. The wider terrain is covered in frozen stiff ground, which is impossible to construct upon. To widen the buildable area, you'll need to use frost breakers. You can send out frost breaking teams by clicking on the frost breaking button, then find your way towards the edge of the buildable area and click on white tiles until the indicator circle is full. So you can see how it's like filling the frost breaking circle there. Frost breakable resource tiles will be colored in blue with the icon of a corresponding resource over them. Frost breaking cost is fixed unless there are no more tiles to click. The amount of tiles needed to begin frost breaking is always the same. So this, not to get too ahead of ourselves here, but this kind of lends itself to a new mechanic in here where there's some synergies and placement bonuses for different districts. And for example, you wouldn't want to place like your residential districts near your industrial districts because people will get sick. Whereas in the first game, you could kind of place your buildings wherever. The only real thing you needed to do was manage your heat and or distance to heat and that kind of thing. Now, here's our generator. We still have to manage that. That's a thing, of course. Now, the generator is the primary source of heat. It requires fuel to function. Initially, your main source of fuel is coal, but later in the game, you can research and discover different types of fuel which vary in efficiency. So that's new. Generator uses as much available fuel as is needed to fulfill heat demand in the city. You can also activate overdrive, which increases output of the generator. Be careful and turn it off before the overdrive bar fills up to avoid generator malfunction. Malfunctions cause death and temporarily reduce the efficiency of the generator. I have a feeling in the first one, if you overdrive to maximum, then you just lose. The generator blows up, so... Heat stamps. These are stockpilable resources that can be spent on frost breaking, constructing districts or buildings, or when using specific actions. So it's like a currency. A city collects heat stamps weekly. Every community provides its share depending on its size. The bigger the community, the more they contribute. Heat stamps income can be increased by satisfying goods demand. It can also be modified by certain laws and buildings. You can request or donate heat stamps to communities and factions. Interesting. Click on a community or faction at the bottom of the screen to see the list of possible actions. Okay. So we also have a couple other things in here. Camera controls, keybinds, the generator, all good. Now you'll notice here, this is the central district and they have these building slots. We'll get into that in a little bit, I think, but for right now, let's speed up time until this is done. And we're just gonna get our basics set up and I'll let them guide us as much as we possibly can. Now, district construction. Districts are the base of your city's economy. Build them to produce and process resources, provide shelter, or recruit Frostland teams. Districts have a fixed number of tiles needed to begin construction. When building a district, keep a lookout for the indicator circle, which shows you how many tiles you still have to click for the construction to start. Available tiles are white. Already selected tiles are yellow. Extraction, food, and logistics districts require deposits to be built. You need to begin selecting tiles from the deposit, which is highlighted in blue and shows a corresponding resource icon. Yeah, cool. Can I just say big shout out to the interface team? Like, this is stunning. For me, like, I come into this, I'm like, this is the cleanest, coolest interface I've seen. It's very modern. It's like, oh, it's slick. Okay. So, we need to get into an extraction district here, I believe. Construct an extraction district on the coal deposit. Yes. So let's just take a look at this. It's 600 workforce, 120 heat stamps. Now look, our workforce is huge right now. We have 25 cores. We have 854 heat stamps, only making 11 per week, but that'll change as we go. There's our heat. There's our shelter. So we have 31 unfulfilled. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Here's our food breakdown. We've got materials, we've got goods, we've got our coal, and we have our guard squads. Interesting. We have weather over here, temperature, current population. Notice, population is 8,000. Our workforce is 4,800. So, anyways, let's do an extraction district over here. It needs to be on the yellow, and then we can expand out. So we'll just do a nice little build like so. Learning all of the synergies and stuff, that's going to take time, so I'm not going to break my head too much here unless it kind of tells us something specifically. Let's just ramp up time here, get this built, and see what else it can teach us. Now, what's this? Looming cold. As the problem in our city continues to worsen, we must take action to protect our citizens. In these harsh conditions, people need a roof over their heads and enough heat to warm their homes. Is the generator powerful enough to heat the city, or do we need to extract more fuel? If our current methods aren't enough, we should consider alternatives. Cold has risen to a concerning level. Okay, got it. Now down here, we've got a couple of things going on. Let's pause it real quick and see. So this is tension. Now, we have minor tension. It's increased by the notable cold, understandable. Marginally increased by minor disease and minor crime. And then we have like all these background things here. But right now, there's only two communities. There's the foragers. They have 51% size. Relations are neutral. And we have the machinists, neutral. And they're 49% size. So the decisions that we make will sway the size and the power of these communities. So I'm excited to see how that's going to go. Shelter from cold. Good. We secured a new source of coal for the generator. Now we need shelter. Without it, people will still freeze to death regardless of how hot the generator runs. The closer to the generator or other shelter, the better. We cannot afford to lose more heat than we have to. Fair. So, shelter. Population needs shelter. If not provided, cold will aggressively rise in the city. Shelter is mainly provided by housing districts, but remember that this type of district demands heat. If the heat demand in the city is not fulfilled, cold will rise, but at a lower rate compared to just lack of shelter. In the idea tree, you can find new ways of providing more shelter. Okay, cool. Let's go housing district. And if you're wondering, actually, let me just push play here for a sec. You see all these little lights roaming around and stuff. You can see them flowing on here. This is like the flow of traffic. This is people going about their day, moving goods and items between districts, so on and so forth. Security for the future. Steward, we're extracting more coal than we currently need to provide adequate heat to the city. That's great, I think. As such, we began to stockpile the surplus. At the moment, we have ample storage space left. However, this space will eventually be filled and any additional coal will be left out in the elements, rendering it worthless. If we do not wish to lose the surplus, we should build more depots. There's different types of depots for various resources. You can construct them in the districts that have empty building space. So let's take a look at this. So this one, we have an empty building slot, right? This one, empty building slot. So will it teach us how to get in there? I think it probably will. We can expand the district, demolish the district, turn it on and off. Okay, fine. Construct 2 housing districts. Optional, use warmth from central district or another housing by constructing housing in close proximity. Okay, let's go districts. Let's go housing. And we're going to try to build this as close as we can to the central hub here. So let's start there and try to make as much of a ring as possible. I kind of like this little expanding hexagon way of building things, because it gives the illusion that you can just kind of build free form, but you are essentially on a hexagon grid. But it'll keep things nice and clean, right? 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so let's let those build. And we're going to use the warmth from the central district. Why wouldn't we? Seems crazy not to. Oh, it's just like the color palette too. I don't know. I just love everything about this at a glance. Just the visuals are so clean, but yet like really detailed. Yeah, this is, yeah, I can't wait. I cannot wait for the full release. This is going to be nuts. Let's speed this up. Did something else pop here? It looks like it might have. Output and demand. Okay. City's economy is based on the output and demand of various resources. Output and demand only change when a new source of output or demand is added to the city, like buildings or districts. Output is the sum of resources produced by districts and buildings. Sure. For example, food output can be increased by building districts on fertile ground. Demand is increased by the needs of your people who require food and shelter to live, as well as goods for them to live in dignity. So goods is almost like luxury, the way I'm looking at that. Districts and buildings mostly increase materials or heat demand. If demand is not fully met, problems like cold, crime, squalor, hunger, or disease in a city will rise. For a while, a city can survive without satisfying all demands, but eventually tension will reach a boiling point, which may lead to your downfall. And then we have stockpiling. So some resources can be stockpiled. When a city runs a surplus of a resource, meaning that output's bigger than demand, the surplus goes into a stockpile. Stockpile will slowly fill up each day as long as there's storage capacity left to store them. While stockpiling, a pointed up arrow is displayed next to the resource amount. Stockpiles will be consumed whenever the demand is higher than the output of a specific resource. Totally makes sense. When stockpiles are being consumed, a pointed down arrow is being displayed. Very nice, very clean way of showing us that. Stockpiling is limited by your storage capacity. You can see the limit of storage capacity for each resource upon hovering over it. When a limit is reached, exclamation mark is there. So we want to avoid that because then you're wasting stuff, right? You can expand storage capacities by building resource depots. There's different variants of depots here. Fuel depot, materials, food, goods. They can be built in any district, contrary to the rest of the buildings. Depots are enabled irrespective of whether the districts they are in are active or not. Okay. An accumulated stockpile is not lost after deactivating or destroying a resource depot. You're just losing the ability to stockpile more. All right. So that's cool because you don't have to put a coal one in here. You could put the coal one here if you wanted. But if we look at this, so here's the buildings. We have a food depot, extraction, food, housing. Okay, so I don't have access to it quite yet. The only thing we have is a food depot, which sounds like something we should build soonish. You can construct buildings and districts if there's an empty building slot available inside them. Buildings have their demand and output, which are added to the already existing economy of a district. Buildings can improve base output of a district. Example, provide more food, or reduce problems directly, like squalor or crime. Initially, you don't have many buildings available for construction. However, the Research Institute is a building that is always available from the very beginning of the game. It provides you with access to the idea tree and a cumulative bonus to research speed. Developing new ideas is essential. Okay. They will come forth with a... Let's read this whole thing. Be mindful of who is conducting the research, okay, as ideologies of specific groups will influence the result of their work. They'll come forth with a special variant of a building aligned with their views. That is very cool. Very cool. So the balancing of these communities is like very key to this game. Love that. Love that. Population 8,009, increasing by 11%, that's the progress. City situation decreased by notable cold, but that should be fixed soon with these housing districts. Scraping the barrel. With heat from the generator and shelter for everyone, we're safe from the cold for now, but as the city grows, it will not be enough. The machinists and foragers have different opinions on how to improve the city further. We need a place to develop ideas for the future. Expand a housing district to provide more space for advanced buildings and build a research institute. Okay. Expanding districts. Expand districts to increase their scale, both in terms of size and capabilities. Expanded districts are more efficient and provide additional building slots. Select a district to open its panel and click the expand button. Then new tiles around the chosen districts to start the expansion. If there are not enough adjacent tiles to select, the district cannot be expanded. Be mindful that housing districts have no building spots upon construction, contrary to all other types of districts. Okay, so that's why you need to expand the housing. That is why you need to expand such a district at least once to be able to construct any buildings. Yeah, okay, got it. Got it. Okay, so if we look at this, for example, and we want to expand it, my bad. Let's expand. How much do I need to... I probably need to fill the thing, right? So let's just expand it like so. That's going to be expanded. Build a research institute, research coal mines, construct the newly researched building in the extraction district. Okay. In the extraction district. And we do have that building slot already. Okay, so that's done. Now I can build a research institute. We have buildings here. In the housing, we have Research Institute. Let's just take a look at this for a sec. So demands 20 heat. That's fine. You can see that we are currently dropping food, dropping materials, dropping coal. Everything else is fine, but we have to keep our eye on that. This is going to do 15% extra research speed, so I assume you could build multiple of these. Each institute improves research speed. Yes. Okay. So now, I don't have a choice where this goes exactly. It's going to go here. It's going to be cool to see how everybody's cities look. Because, like, if you think about these districts, right? We would, in the first game, by the end, this was kind of like our full deal. This was about as large as it got. Because you're placing the individual buildings within this. Now a district is like, boom, here's a big section of city for you. So that's really fun. We do have a little bit of a weather situation happening here. So colder season, warmer season, whiteouts. While that's going, let's see this. Area effects. Pay attention to where you construct districts, as area effects may give them positive or negative effects. Area effects are caused by environmental circumstances, the natural layout of the land or surface on which a district is constructed, or by proximity to other districts. I kind of mentioned this earlier. Area effects are applied when a specific number of district tiles are located within it. While building any district, a tooltip will provide information about whether your current construction has any area effects applied. For example, it's good to place housing districts near the central district and near other housing districts to benefit more from efficient heating. So when we're placing, we should be looking at this overlay. On the other hand, it's better to avoid building housing or food districts near extraction, since toxic air from the extraction will negatively affect these districts, increasing squalor. Fair play. Absent workforce. Unresolved problems in the city can make their workforce absent. There's two types. There's sick. Number of sick workers increases proportionally to how high disease is. And injured. The injured will rejoin the available workforce over time. You may encounter other types of absences in the city due to various events and decisions you make. So the vibe that I'm getting here is that you're operating more on the macro level, like a more zoomed out view of your city and your politics and the people and the decisions that you make. Whereas in the first one, it's all very micro. Like, I'm going to build this specific building. I'm going to build a hospital. I'm going to build a house. Like, very, very explicit. Different ideas. Okay, here we go. A small crowd gathers outside of the new research institute, arguing how to exploit the last coal veins. The machinists want us to lean on machine-powered mining, but foragers would have us pursue a more frugal solution. They would never display such discord in the captain's heyday. You have to choose who to entrust with developing their idea. The communities of the city have different perspectives. You may not be able to please everyone. Let's open the decision tree. The idea tree. Okay. We need new ideas to move forward. Different communities propose diverging answers. Choose a community to develop an idea will improve your relationship with that community. So if we need to look at coal mines, right? Adaptation or progress. Let's go through this. This is very cool, very different. How can we mine more coal? So the foragers they're basically half and half, right? One's 51, one's 49, whatever. So they're suggesting a dust coal mine. Requires an extraction district with a coal deposit. Mining operation where residual coal dust is sucked up and compressed into briquettes to make maximum use of the resource. Not a bad idea. Disease is slightly increased. Small typo there. I'll send that to them. But 20 materials demand. Disease potentially goes up. Construction cost 80. Needs 15 weeks. Develop idea for 50. And then we have the other option, I guess, which is this from the machinists. So a grinding coal mine. Operation using grinding machines to churn through coal seams quickly, leaving heaps of slag behind. So squalor would be increased. The filth, grime, and pollution present in the city is produced by the generator, heavy machinery, and poor sanitation. So this increases sickliness, slows population growth, and wears down districts. Now, in the first game, in certain scenarios, there was a lot of decisions that were clearly better. Like, for example, you chose child working because you need those additional workers early on, and it sets your whole colony up to be much more successful. It's like strictly the better option. You're choosing the other stuff if you're going to do like some role-playing stuff or just to vary it up, right? From what I'm gathering here and everything that I've read, it really feels like, yes, one of these may look better now, but the impact of that in years' time could be significantly different. And we don't know what that is, right? So you could kind of theorize, well, okay, this one is probably slightly less efficient, because you're getting 150 versus 180, but then you're getting squalor here, which is sickliness, population growth, and weighing down districts. But if I side more with the machinists, maybe I get some cooler technology that helps us more down the road. But if I side more with the foragers, maybe we have to rely less on technology and we don't have to use all the machinery. People get sick less often, that kind of thing. But who freaking knows? Who knows? Squalor seems bad, and squalor's being increased, whereas disease is slightly increased. So I don't know. I'm not going to like commit to either side here. We're going to just kind of go and see what happens. But let's develop this idea. Okay. So look at this. So now we can look in and see in the housing district. That's very cool. And I guess like this being the research institute, you can highlight it, but it's not something that you can actively click into. You'd have to go through here, right? Now that's going to take 14 weeks to do. Not a problem. What else is in here? Communities. The people of your city form communities. We looked at this before. You can view any of your communities by clicking their image. Yep. Under the community name, you can find information regarding your relations with the specific community. Your relations with each community will impact your overall trust. Under the community descriptions, a list of actions you can perform with that community. Those actions can greatly improve your city's situation, but can also change your relationships with that community for better or worse. Okay, so if we go into here, you can request money from them. Fund projects beneficial to the foragers community. The larger their population, the more heat stamps required to fund them. So I could just say like, hey, take my 246 heat stamps to boost our relationship. And if we look at these guys, same idea, 234 heat stamps, requesting funds. So there's not much we can get from them right now. I'm not going to start funding any projects because I don't know how much of the heat stamps we're going to need. But while that's being researched, what else might we want to do? Let's take a look at some of the other districts. We have a food district here. So if we look at this, we saw over here, there was the fertile ground. So I think we should get some food going before it becomes a problem. Materials, we'll have to figure that out as well. But I don't know what the synergies are with this. Actually, let me click here. So yeah, warmth sharing, you get a little bit of extra heat. But then that means if I want to expand districts, I'm kind of cutting into that a little bit. And is that a big deal for the food district? Tough to say. So let's maybe leave that for now. Construct the newly researched building in the extraction district. Yeah, we're almost there. We're about halfway to that. Not a problem. What else is happening up here? Crime is minor. Extremely increased by goods scarcity. Decreased by guard squads. Disease is absent. That's good. Squalor is absent. Hunger is absent. And cold is absent. Love to see that. This is good. I do wish that we were building up a little bit more of a surplus here, but that doesn't seem to be happening. But that's fine. I'm sure it'll teach us. We've got some colder weather coming here. Food district is now up and running. And we should see an increase in this soonish from here. Yeah, 60 additional from the food district. So that's nice. There's our stockpile. It's pretty big. Stockpile there. We can actually go up to 30,000, which is incredible. But it says right now that our coal extraction will only last for 1 week. But that's because we don't have these coal mines in here yet. So now I've got it and I can build it. What's trust? So trust is located below the tension meter. Okay, that's what that is. Trust shows how much confidence people have in you as the steward of the city. It mainly consists of the relations with all communities and factions. However, your decisions and actions can also influence your overall trust. Be careful if your trust runs out and you become despised among your people, the populace might want to depose you and strip you of their steward position. You can improve your overall trust by increasing your relations with communities and factions, and this can be done by various community actions, which we saw. Try clicking on community portraits at the bottom of the screen and see what you can do for them. Otherwise, trust is increased by signing certain laws or fulfilling promises and negotiations. So yeah, very cool. Neutral foragers unchanged by neutral machinists. Cool. Building wise, let's go extraction and let's get the dust coal mine going. Mining operation where residue of coal is sucked up and compressed into briquettes. Sweet. Let's do it. And now what's this? Stockpiles are depleting. Our initial stockpiles of coal have run out. Our current output will satisfy some of the demand, but problems will mount over time. We must expand our districts or establish new ones to provide more supply. Otherwise, the city and us will suffer. Expand or build new districts to get more coal. Sure, but I do think that once this coal gets put in here, then, this extraction mine gets put in here, then we should be starting to generate a bit more. Now we need a place to settle differences. This is exciting. So with the new mine, we have enough coal output to last us a while, yet differences between communities remain. Even under the previous leader, plans have existed to establish a council to settle such differences. More pressing problems have always delayed them. The time has come, Steward. The people want a say in how the city is run. We need a council. Okay, so yeah, check this out. We are definitely stockpiling now. That's beautiful. I feel like, okay, we've built a district, but I think we're still going to need a building in there, a food depot, to get that going. So let's throw that in. I know it's not asking us to do it, but I'm doing it. Build the council hall in the central district. Don't got to tell me twice. Demands 20 heat, 200 workforce, 80 heat stamps. Let's go. Workforce is at 2,100. Population 8,009. Very good. This is all going well so far. So once that's built, we want to enact a new law. I'm looking at our relationships here. Still relatively the same. Oh, it can make promises. Pick one of the 3 options to promise something that furthers the machinist's worldview. If you keep your promise, relations improve. So let's take a look here. Promise to destroy the dust coal mine. Promise to research chemical drum hothouse. Promise to fund projects. Well, that seems like an easy one to do, right? You can say, let's promise to fund projects, right? And then I could go in here and fund these guys. The machinists are delighted you kept your word. They now look upon your rule more positively and consider you a leader with integrity. Because you kept your promise, relations improve, trust rises. Yeah, trust is good. Nice. And relations are still neutral, but that's fine. We're probably on the more positive side of neutral. The steward promised them some nonsense. So you can see here a forager's getting choked that we made that decision. You can see like where this is going, right? The council gathers for the first time. We can vote on new laws. Let's go. Okay. People cheer as the gates of the council open. Feels like a piece of the world lost to the frost has been regained. The people are hopeful to have their voices heard, while the machinists and foragers clash about our survival strategy. Neither has a firm stance on economic or social issues. However, many in their ranks do, though they keep to the shadows for now. To pass any law in council, you'll need the majority of delegates to support it. Let's open the session. Oh, sick. Okay, this is so cool. Dude. Okay. People of the city sent 100 delegates to represent them. Your role as steward is to propose laws that will be put to vote. However, communities have different outlooks on many things. You have to negotiate or pressure them to get enough support. Survival, economy, society. Okay. Survival. So we have things like food additives, goods. There are no defined standards on how goods are produced. So up here we have foraged additives. Food output per capita is slightly increased. Or we go chemical additives, obviously on the engineering side. Food production efficiency is significantly increased, but disease, because of the chemicals, is marginally increased. Let's look at some of the other options here. Economy. Basic necessities are customarily provided without compensation, but practices can differ. Heat stamps. Income per capita is increased. Resource production efficiency is increased. Trust will rise. Okay. Contagion prevention. Infection badges or supported quarantine. Oh yeah, this is gonna get messy. Society-wise, we have funerals. Trust loss resulting from deaths is decreased if we do ceremonial. If we do harvesting, disease is slightly increased, but research speed is also slightly increased. Childhood, percentage of active workers, slightly increased. Family apprenticeship, or research speed is slightly increased, but heat stamps per capita is slightly decreased. So here's the example I was kind of talking about earlier where you do the child work. This is essentially that, right? But now, because there's so many unknowns here, like look at all this stuff, right? As our kids get older, perhaps they could be put to, like, perhaps because years pass, maybe they become a better part of the workforce and stuff. Like, it'll be interesting to see. But let's pass a law in here. Let's go with food additives. Now, let's see. You can see people are divided, obviously. The foragers want this. The machinists want this. I think I've called them engineers a few times, but machinists. Let's go with the machinists here and see what happens. Okay. How do I... Oh, propose. Put the law to vote next session. Now, here's the thing. There are slightly more foragers than there are machinists, so I'm curious as to how this will go. Oh, look at this. So people are divided. 437 against 26. Hesitant 37. You can vote, you can negotiate, or you can pressure delegates. Pressure the hesitant delegates, which will sway them towards supporting the law. The more trusted you are, the more effective it will be. Relationships with all communities will worsen. Hesitant delegates will be more likely to vote for the law. Negotiate, vote. Accepted city trust. I'm accepted. So that's good. So I do have some trust, right? Click on the council member to view their profiles. Foragers are all up there. The machinists are here. Technological progress is the only way to ensure survival. Man, the lighting and stuff so sick. The foragers believe adaptation is key. Fine. Let's vote. See what happens. I like how it's like the individual lights coming on. Oh! Okay, well, so this... I don't know if this is just coincidence or exactly how it is, but like the city sent 100 delegates, right? If we have 51% that were foragers, you have to imagine that 51% of them, or 51 of the 100 are going to be foragers, which is probably why they are 51 here. I have to imagine that that lines up every time. But then that means that you have to do the pressuring and stuff to get things done, right? So we can do a council again in 10 weeks. All right, so that's going to slow us down a little bit. But I'm willing to just fast forward through those 10 weeks. This is blatant favoritism. Okay, hold on a second here. I probably can't... Well, maybe I can make these guys a promise. Start quest to pass expedition support. Starts quest to research weather-adjusted shifts. Starts quest to use grant agenda. Okay, what else is in here? Oh, so... Let foragers choose the next law to be voted on in the council. Kind of neat. Let's try this again. Okay, so now we're going to go in here. I'm going to say, guys, we need to figure this out. Okay? We're going to go chemical additives. I'm going to propose this. And now, let's see what negotiate does. Foragers are open to negotiate. Let's read this. This is so sick. Not all laws you propose will have widespread support. You can negotiate to have a better chance. After choosing a group to negotiate with, you can choose what to promise them in exchange for voting along with your proposal. That includes actions such as enacting a law they desire, building or destroying a special building, or using an action towards a particular community or faction. Making a promise in negotiations will make all hesitant delegates in chosen community vote for the proposed law. Additionally, some delegates who are against the law will also switch sides. Interesting. Same logic applies if you want to vote against the law. Factions are more monolithic and will not engage in negotiations about laws that are against their world view. Okay. Okay. This is cool. So, partially open to negotiate, open to negotiate. These guys are obviously mostly for. So, it's the foragers that we want to negotiate with. So, you come in here like, okay, we want you to vote for this, right? And their terms are going to be one of these things. So fund projects, that's easy, right? It's just money. I just toss it to them. Expedition support, everyone must aid expeditions by helping them prepare for their journeys, but exploration time is increased. Okay. And then weather-adjusted shifts. To protect worker health, the workplace must adapt working hours to the weather conditions. Okay, interesting. Resource production efficiency decreased, disease decreased, heat demand slightly decreased. But like all the stuff that we're doing, extraction, production, food district, that's all going to drop slightly. I think this is the one that we make the promise on. You can see what happened there. If I go here, is that changing any of them? No. I wonder if some of them have like bigger weighting, but like this is obviously pretty good. So let's do that. And now let's send the vote. We didn't have to do the whole trust thing. We're negotiating. We're cool about it. Let's put it to a vote. And this should pass no problem. Okay.
The votes are in.
Love it.
The measure passes.
I love how like a bunch flow in and then there's a couple that are like, I don't know. Into the future, the new law has been agreed on. Good, there are challenges ahead. Improving coal extraction is a success, but the vein will only last so long. We need to explore the Frostland for a permanent source of fuel. That's the first step in our colonization effort. If we don't take it, the city will have no future at all. This concludes the onboarding tasks in the preview. Remember, you can always consult the tutorial. Okay, well that's actually awesome. So now we have a bigger list of this is the actual goal of this ambition that we chose, right? To do these things. Now, Sue Miller, a street urchin looking for trouble. Cindy's pa went and got her a governess like she's going to be a duchess or something. Not on our watch. We roughed up the little bitch, all right. Ferguson's boys learn this too. If they try and wife us again tonight, we'll pull razors and say we'll cut out their eyes. It'll be good fun. But what we want, proper rumble, short blades only. Come on, who wants to play? The lack of law regulating childhood is causing tension to rise in the city. Okay, so we need to figure out a way to regulate childhood. Guys, I think this is a great place to take a little break here. If you guys want to see more of this, I'd be happy to do like the beta run and see where this goes. So if you guys like this, I'll happily do more. But when this game fully releases in July, I'll be doing a full playthrough, all the story stuff, like all of it, okay? I'll be locked in, loaded, exploring all of the scenarios that we get, everything, paying attention to the story, going as deep as we can. And I'm really looking forward to it, man. Really looking forward to it. Anything 11-bit touches, I'm like pumped about. So this is looking to be no different from that. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you had a good time. And we'll address anything that's up here when we return. Bye for now. Please like the video if you liked it. Bye.